Greetings, space friends and capsuleers. The secret to success in the most massive space MMO ever, EVE Online, is understanding the ships and what they do. I'm going to help you out with that by explaining the most popular ships in EVE Online and why they are favored. We're going to go over only combat ships in this video, so you'll find nothing about mining barges, mining support ships, e-warships, scanning ships, freighters, or transports. Of course, the popularity of these ships often changes over time due to various buffs or nerfs. It's hard to get any hard data on this, but having been an EVE veteran and around for over 12 years, I've kind of got a handle on what I see the most. Now, the following ships are mostly used in the combat setting, whether that's PvP or PvE, but keep in mind that EVE is pretty well balanced, so ships not mentioned here can have a great deal of use when fit properly in the right situations. So we're going to cover 10 of the most popular combat ships in EVE, but before we get into that, I would like to ask you to support this channel by at least giving this video a like, subscribe, make a comment about your favorite ship, and last but not least, consider supporting the channel on patreon.com/resurrected, also linked in the description below. Most of my Patreon content lately has been Star Trek centered. No idea if patrons might be interested in some kind of EVE Online content on Patreon, such as maybe PvP instruction for an hour, but feel free to let me know in the comments if this is something you might be interested in. Of course, at patreon.com/resurrected, I do custom starship renders, offer access to my Blender files I use in a lot of animations, and share works in progress or videos ad-free. Okay, so let's get into the EVE Online ships, starting with smallest to largest. We'll start with frigates and get up to battle cruisers. So for the first frigate, we've got the Galente Tristan. The Tristan is a Galente drone frigate. Its flowery or starburst shape sort of reminds me of Prince Xizor's Virago starfighter from Star Wars lore. But this ain't no fighter. It's a frigate that's 79 meters in length. As a Tech 1 baseline frigate, it's very easy for newer or less skilled trained players to get into. Although this ship has a couple of turret slots, its primary weapon is the combat drones. For a Tech 1 baseline frigate, it's got a very large drone bandwidth, giving it the ability to control up to 5 light combat drones, and a relatively long drone control range at 60 kilometers. Even though the ship only targets at 50 kilometers, the drones can go on fighting even if the target lock is lost. The Tristan also has a bonus to drone hit points based on skill level, making it harder to defang this ship by destroying the drones, and a bonus to drone tracking speed, making them more deadly against small, fast-moving targets such as frigates or other drones. And the thing about combat drones is that depending on which type you use, they can do different damage types. So some drones like hobgoblins do thermal and kinetic damage, while warriors, which are really fast, do explosive and kinetic damage. And don't forget there are EW drones that can jam out sensors, among other types. Often a combat effective Tristan doesn't bother with fitting any kind of turrets at all and relies fully on its drones for dealing damage. So the versatility of a drone-based ship becomes apparent here. As long as you treat your drones with tender, loving care, it's important that you watch your drones to see if they're taking damage. Recall your drones, and above all, don't abandon your drones. You must pet them and even come up with pet names for them. If you leave them out there in space, someone else might scoop them up and steal them, or they may get naughty on their own out there, reproduce, and become the filthy abominations known as rogue drones, so please treat your drones well. The Astero. The Astero is the quintessential exploration frigate. You'll see Asteros mostly alone out in remote areas of space. The Astero is the Sisters of Eve designed frigate that in my opinion has become kind of a cancer, making exploration or even hunting people in Asteros exclusive to most Astero pilots, as these ships are stealthy and very combat effective compared to other frigates. It has an interesting look with 2 giant semicircular foils, and it's about 67 meters long. The Astero's best feature is that it can fit a covert ops cloaking device. This means it can warp while cloaked, unlike conventional cloaking devices. This is essential for travel in dangerous areas so that it can avoid gate camps by cloaking before even the fastest locking attackers can obtain a target lock. It also has a tremendous bonus to scan probe strength. That's right, this ship is an excellent prober, which is why it's such a common sight in wormholes or wormhole space. And its drone bandwidth is also pretty good. at least as good as the Tristan's bandwidth. But unlike the Tristan, which is a baseline Tech 1 frigate, this is a faction frigate, that being the Sisters of Eve, so it has stronger damage resistances and durability across the board. These ships are so good and popular, I kind of almost don't like them. Right, so number 3, the only destroyer we have here is the Catalyst. The Catalyst is a Tech 1 baseline Galente destroyer. Now, as far as most destroyers go, they're all pretty well balanced, so they're all in contention as favorites, but the Catalyst is a hybrid turret destroyer that has so many turrets its blasters can melt your face off. It is shaped pretty much like an asymmetrical flying wing at 287 meters in length. That's a pretty big ship, definitely close to something like a Constitution class cruiser from Star Trek. It is the quintessential gank ship. The Catalyst's 8 turret slots will give you a 10% bonus to hybrid turret tracking and fall off per pilot skill level, as well as a fixed 50% bonus to hybrid turret optimal range. But this ship is most commonly fit with a bunch of blasters for maximum damage per second. What this does is win the damage race before the target can do anything, or often before the Concord police force can respond, which is why it's often used as a suicide ganking ship, or to kill unsuspecting ships in high-sec space before Concord can get there, which sacrifices the Catalyst. This, of course, is done for a variety of reasons I won't get into now. So now there are 4 popular cruisers we can get into. The Vexor. The Vexor is a good ship. It was my first cruiser. It's a trusty old ship. The Vexor is a Galente cruiser with curvy, somewhat bulky lines, and looks like some sort of undersea crustacean without the legs and fins. It's 239 meters long, putting it pretty close to the size of a Constitution-class cruiser from Star Trek, but with maybe a bit more bulk. This is a Tech 1 cruiser with bonuses to both medium hybrid turret damage and even better bonuses to drones in several regards per pilot skill level. I personally think that the most versatile build for Vexors is a combination of railguns and drones, but for closer range damage they can fit a bunch of blasters, but they can be fit a number of different ways. And of course we're talking about combat drones once again. Noticing a pattern here? Drones are so useful for their versatile damage types and abilities to engage over longer ranges. The Vexor is pretty happy with an armor tank, but it can function as a shield tanker and is pretty good at PvP as well as PvE. It's capable of putting out more DPS than any baseline Tech 1 cruiser with a max skilled pilot, but depending on how it's fit, it can tank decently as well, and it also is an excellent ship for PvP fleet doctrines. I would say this is a great ship for players who are getting into E for about 6 weeks so far and have decided to commit to the game or go ahead and pay for an Omega level subscription, which opens up a lot of options. And here you have an affordable, effective cruiser, the Stratios. So if you take the Vexor and the Astero, and if they have a baby, it would be a Stratios. This Sisters of Eve cruiser is 404 meters long and is the bigger sister of the Estero. Like the Estero, it can run a covert ops cloaking device, and it has bonuses to scan probes. But as a bigger ship after probing, it can do a lot more damage to NPCs and whatnot for running valuable combat sites only found through probing. And since it can travel freely through gates with the covert ops cloak, the Stratios is able to go after those higher risk but bigger reward sites. Also another ship with drone bonuses. Now don't worry, turrets do have great purpose in this game and even on the Stratios, but it's often used as a stealth hunter in PvP, and it can be tanked for armor or shields depending on your preference. Some people treasure their Stratios with great care. The Gila. The Gila is certainly the most popular pirate design cruiser. The blueprints for these are found either by raiding Guristas pirate sites or having good relations with the Guristas. A Gila is based on the Moa hull, which used to look like a dilapidated space ostrich until they redesigned the hull to make the ship look both adorable and cool, especially with the cute little dog ears on the front. The Gila is 334 meters long. Now, its armament is really weird. It has 4 missile launcher hardpoints, and for PvE, applying damage with missiles is almost as versatile and effective as using drones. But here's the weird part. the Gila only has the drone bandwidth for 2 medium combat drones. But have a look at these drone bonuses. 500% bonus for drone damage, and 250% for drone hit points. And this is a fixed bonus regardless of pilot skill level. So the drones do as much damage or more than other drone-dependent cruisers with a smaller amount of drones, and your character doesn't have to be fully trained in this ship for that sick drone damage to apply. These ships are almost a staple for novice to mid-level pilots for all kinds of PvE, and it's also really effective as a PvP ship. The Ishtar. Before the Stratius, or before the Gila was reworked, we had the Ishtar, a heavy assault cruiser based on the Vexor hull. And the Ishtar is in many ways better than the Gila because, as an assault cruiser, it can use the advanced damage control for temporary buffs, making the thing almost invulnerable for about 15 seconds. And as you can see, although it has turret hardpoints, there are no turret bonuses, only drone bonuses, and all based on skill level. Unlike any other cruiser, it's capable of running a flight of 5 heavy drones or 5 sentry drones, which means it's capable of battleship level damage that can project pretty far. When I was reaching mastery level of running combat sites for treasure and loot, the Ishtar was my favorite ship. The Ishtar, throughout its history, has often been used as part of large PvP fleet doctrines. The only downside to the Ishtar, unlike the Gila, is that the character needs to be trained well to take advantage of all the Ishtar's bonuses. Now I have some weird cruisers called strategic cruisers, which are very expensive but modular. So first we've got the Tengu. The Tengu requires even more skill points and expense to get into than an Ishtar. The Tengu can be very tough, and it can be used for a variety of things, which is why it's so popular. For combat, especially PvP, Tengus used to be king of the hill, and they still hold their own. But they're actually very good missile ships. They can be configured as a covert ops ship that can cloak while in warp, but they can also be configured for pure tank and no damage. Now why would anyone do that for such an expensive ship? Well, these ships are capable of lighting a covert sinusoidal field. Now noobs and Eve will have no idea what that means, but believe me, it's bad news for anyone on the receiving end of it. A sinusoidal field is something that ships several jumps away can lock onto and initiate a jump directly to the sino. In the process, though, it paralyzes the ship that lights the sino. The ships that jump are normally only capital ships with a special jump drive, but the cancer of the covert ops sino is that it can jump in any ships with a covert ops role or a covert ops cloaking device. So this could be a group of Stratioses or covert ops battleships, even if they don't have that jump drive. In my opinion, covert ops sinos should be nerfed because it can be very oppressive for large areas of space. But this is why these strategic cruisers for sinos are tanked up so much, because the ship has to stay alive long enough to light the sino in a PvP situation. The Loki. So the Tengu is the Caldari strategic cruiser, the Loki is the Mimitar version of the Tengu. It can also do everything the Tengu can do. It's a little bit different as it can fit turrets or missile launchers. I would say the main difference with the Loki is that it can run a stasis webifier bonus. Stasis webifiers can slow a ship down to a crawl. This makes the target easier to catch and hit. And the Loki has extended stasis webifier range, giving it an enormous amount of battlefield control. Lokis can be stealthy, so they are a very popular choice for cloaky hunters. Alright, so for the only battlecruiser, and last but not least, we've got the Drake. As far as battlecruisers go, there are many good battlecruisers, but I seem to still see the venerable Drake in use by many new to intermediate players. The Drake is 535 meters long, and it looks like a collection of angular blocks. To me, the design has little personality or aesthetic appeal, which used to be true of almost all Caldari ships. The Tech 1 baseline battlecruiser is easy to train for, it's not too expensive, and its bonus is for missile launchers. This makes it a popular and versatile PvE ship. It's also the only T1 battlecruiser that does shield tanking really well. The thing to understand about the Drake is that at one time it was so popular that it has now become a meme. Drake fleets were the go-to for large nullsec PvP doctrines way back in the day, so literally thousands of players would have 1 or 2 of these ready to go. If you played years and years ago and come back to the game, you could have a Drake still sitting in your hangar. Nowadays, if you join a fleet and say, "Can I bring a Drake?" you'll get laughed at by the veterans. No, not out of malice, but for one of 2 reasons. Reason 1 is that you may be innocent enough not to know, and fleet commanders used to groan when someone wanted to bring a Drake yet again, or you are deliberately trolling your buddies. Here are some honorable mentions in no particular order. The Kikamura. The Kikamura is a precursor Triglavian destroyer. The Triglavian Kikamura is definitely in my top 5 favorite ships. It's a fast destroyer or precursor Triglavian design in all of its wicked weirdness that can project a lot of damage at range like nothing else. Sometimes nullsec alliances use entire Kikamura rapid response fleets. The Punisher. The Punisher is an Amar Tech 1 frigate, and aside from some assault frigates, it is the tankiest frigate in the game by far. This means it can be used for a variety of different things. The Comet. I call the Comet the best bang for your buck as far as Navy faction frigates. The Comet is a Galente Navy issue ship with a lot of versatility. It has a respectable drone combat ability, hybrid turrets, and can challenge or beat almost any other frigate in its class. I almost always have a couple of these in my hangar. Vexor Navy issue. Yet another Vexor option. The Vexor Navy issue used to be the Vexor with much better drone ability, but its drones have since been nerfed and it's been rebalanced to be more of a gunship. It still has a lot of versatile use though. Myrmidon. The Myrmidon is a dank looking Galente battlecruiser. It can be used for PvE with its versatile drone loadout, but in certain situations it can be a very fun PvP ship. The Thrasher. The Thrasher is a direct competitor to the Catalyst for destroyer popularity. Thrashers are also used as gank ships, and they can put almost as much DPS out as Catalyst, but the Thrashers can also fit artillery turrets which can inflict heavy, devastating alpha strikes. Caracal. The Caracal is a smooth-sailing Caldari cruiser specializing in missiles. It can devastate swarms of smaller ships with rapid light missile launchers, so it's used for both PvE and PvP. The Saber. The Saber is a popular interdictor destroyer of Minmatar design, used in nullsec and wormhole space, because it can rapidly deploy a warp disruption bubble which prevents targets from engaging warp within that bubble. Flycatcher. Flycatcher is another interdictor of Caldari design. In my opinion, it's slightly more versatile in combat. The Rattlesnake. Finally, a battleship. I'm sure you guys were wondering why I haven't put any battleships out here. But you remember the Gila. Well, the Rattlesnake is a Garistas pirate design, pretty much a Gila in steroids, and it's an awesome PvE ship. Macarial. The Macarial is an Angel Cartel battleship, which is insanely fast and aggressive and uses mostly turrets. It's popular with both PvE and PvP. Now, I've heard extensive nerd debates on what ship is better and in what situation. I'm sure you have your opinions. Of course, this is about the popularity of the ships and why they're popular, not necessarily what's best, but I would love to see your comments on what you like and why. Also, a little update on the channel. I'm working on building an Excelsior class model, which I hope to use in animations for my next video. This ship will also be available for custom renders on my Patreon page. I also put regular updates on my community page, so you'll see pictures and GIFs and all kinds of things. So be sure to subscribe to get notified for those. Also, I could really use an injection of subscribers. I lost about 1,000 when the crypto scammers tried to take over my channel last week, so be sure to subscribe. Also, here's a preview of something else I'm working on. Fly safe, good hunting, and I'll see you out there in space, my space friends. Offer access to my Blender retake. At least as good as the Tristan's bone width retake. That has so many turrets retake. It's 239er retake. And since it can travel freely through gates as the covert ops cloaks retake. And since it can travel freely retake. Which used to look like a dilapidated space ostrich retake. The Loki is in the retake. That hit retake. Truck. It's fast and it has retake.